Happy Tiana's Bayou Adventure Week. Disney planned to make a big announcement of the opening date, which is officially June 28th during American Idol. I was dreading having to watch American Idol for the first time since Chip and I were in high school, I think, like 2006. The press release was thankfully posted a little bit early, which saved me from watching the show. We're gonna jump right into it, but before we do that, and all the other news, and we've got some listener questions. We're gonna talk some Universal. We're gonna talk some Disney. We're welcoming back Jocelyn Martins, travel agent with the Magic for Less Travel. Jocelyn, how's everything going?
It's great. It's great to talk to you guys again. Thanks for having me.
Are you excited for
Excited.
Tiana's week?
I am. I
Yeah.
am.
When we were all speculating what date this was going to open, were you close in your thoughts?
I think it was initially a little bit earlier in the summer than I thought. I think summer gave them a wide berth, and they're not
Hmm.
usually at the front of their windows. But then I am fortunate enough to do a preview on June. I think it's going to be the 10th, following a preview to Lookout K at Lighthouse Point. So I've known
Oh,
that for a few weeks. So I have a little
Oh, I'm so
idea.
jealous right now.
Chip, I
Yeah.
just want to point out too that the entire reason I brought that up is for me to victory lap that Chip thought 2025 when we made our podcast guests.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I am
yeah.
taking the checkered flag or whatever it is and rubbing it in Chip's face a little bit. But we're all excited, and Chip is going to be already has his family vacation planned, so he will be down there for the opening date of Tiana's, which I am jealous.
That's
So Chip,
exciting.
yeah, I mean you're going to have to report back. I think Chip and I will both be down there June 24th. I come down June 24th,
I come
and I
down the
might
25th.
extend my trip until the 29th, but we'll see. But Chip will definitely be down there for the
You
opening
can come
date.
over to
And
the Saratoga, man. We got a spot for you.
hey, I'll bunk with you, and your wife can have a room to herself, and I'll bunk with Chip. But everybody's excited. We finally have an opening date. We don't have to worry about more videos of people riding and all that kind of stuff because it's finally set in stone. By the time this episode drops, we're going to have found out the DVC annual pass holder preview dates, which I'm sure are going to be somewhere around Jocelyn's preview date of June 10th. So you're going to see people with spoilers, you're going to see people with hot takes and all that fun stuff about how great this ride is. My initial impression is that it's going to be a much better ride at night. Jocelyn, have you felt that way, or what are your initial thoughts on what you've seen so far?
I don't know, that's an interesting, takeaway. I haven't really thought. I like when this stuff comes to just kinda let it come. Not that I, like,
Mhm.
really avoid spoilers. I mean, we know the footprint of the attraction, right?
Sure.
And it was one I loved. I think it was a fantastic. I loved the audio animatronics and just I like drops. I can handle drops still in my older age, so I'm excited to see these updated, features and stuff. But I think it was always fun at night, especially if you timed it right with some fireworks and stuff. And nighttime
The
and lights are always magical.
the lights are giving that Moana walkthrough vibe, right?
Yeah.
Like the different colors and a lot of that stuff. Chip, what from what you've seen so far, what are you most so excited about with Tiana's Bio Adventure?
I think the music and the animatronics are going to be the two best things. I mean, as long as they don't look like the animatronics over at Frozen Ever After, it will be all right. Which they don't. But you talked about being at night. The ride's mostly inside, except for a couple of it. So I don't think it's. I think the colors are going to look sweet, especially coming at the top. You see that mist kind of. So I'm interested to see how that all plays in. But I mean, it's still the same ride track, so they're not changing much in that. But I'm excited for all the colors, and I almost get a weird Navi River Journey type color vibe
Yeah,
just
that
from the pictures I've
fluorescent,
seen. Yeah,
glow in the dark style kind of impression. I can definitely see that. The other big exciting news is the new Poly Island Tower is going to open in December over at the Polynesian. This is going to be a DVC tower, which we know that the public can also book. It's a little bit more expensive if you're not DVC. Reservations are going to open for DVC members on June 4th, annual pass holders on June 5th, and the general public on June 6th. It's a 10-story tower, and it's got a lot of interesting vibes and callbacks to initial drawings from when they were making the Polynesian, and they seem to kind of scrap some of these ideas. And if you look at the drawings in comparison to what they're building now, it's very thematically related. It looks beautiful. I know we all want more rooms in that area. Jocelyn, what are your kind of initial thoughts on the Poly Island Tower?
I'm really excited for it. I think we need more resorts across the entire property. I always love a deluxe resort, deluxe villa. The drawback of the villas at the Polynesian have always been it's either the studio, which is it's a nice studio, or the bungalow. And I don't know many people that have stayed. I know people are staying in the bungalows, but I think having some like one bedroom options and just a variety of villas. The villas are a great concept, whether you're staying with points or cash, because you've got kitchenettes, you've got living space. They're just, I think they're fantastic. So I'm excited. I know people love being in the Magic Kingdom area. People love the vibe of the Polynesian and just, everything there. So I'm really excited. And I know there were like naysayers while this tower has been being built, but I think just like going back to Tiana's for a minute, Imagineering is going to like all cards are not on the table. We don't know everything. We don't know everything about the tower. We don't know everything about that attraction. And I have a trust in them. Like I love this company enough that I trust the Imagineering that they're going to blow us away.
Well,
They are.
it's a point to go back to Tiana's for a second. There was a lot of hubbub about the railing above the drop, right? When you were looking at the drop, every time a picture or video was posted, people were complaining about this safety railing that was above it that was visible. And they were saying Disney's lost its way. And I can't believe they're letting that railing be visible. And everybody that had a head on their shoulders knew that they weren't going to let that railing be completely visible by the time it was done. And it's already gone and covered and it looks gorgeous. And you can't even tell that there was a railing there at any point in time. And the same can be said for the Poly Tower. Like people were saying, it's too big, it's ugly, da 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 da, without even seeing what it was going to look like. And of course, it looks gorgeous and it's going to be awesome. Chip, I know that you love these resorts like the rest of us because we've got big families, right?
Yeah.
So more rooms with parties of 5 to Chip 7, I think are welcomed. What are your thoughts on the Poly Tower?
What did I read that there's no true grand villa? I think it's only 1 and 2 bedrooms and some studios. I'm excited for that, just for the fact that I talked to my wife about like she's like her parents would love to stay at the Polynesian, but they don't want to stay. We all want to be under one roof. We don't want to be in 2 studios. So I love that thought because I don't have enough points to stay at Polynesian. Even if I banked for 4 years, I'd struggle to get one night. But yeah, I think the colors are beautiful. The one question I have, and I still don't know based on the pictures, is if you're looking at the tower, there's a cutout in the left-hand side. If you're looking at the tower, there's a cutout, and it looks like a picture, but I don't know what it is. I don't know if that's a restaurant. I don't know if that's a bar.
I think it's
I
a
said,
restaurant
but I
from
said
what
something
I
to you. I
read.
think when we were waiting for the ferry the one night, I'm like, "What is that?" Because it's not a room, and I don't
Mhm.
think there's a grand villa. So I'm interested
Yeah,
to see what that is.
I'll be interested too. I mean, I think we're all going to be interested to see the pricing as well. I would imagine it's going to be the highest price rooms at Disney, but who
Well,
knows? We'll
the
see.
big
It's going
the
to be
big
hard to get
thing
into. I can tell you that.
the big thing is going to be is what, and this is DVC nerd talk, is what association does it fall in? I don't think they've announced it, but everything's leaning towards the old association instead of the Riviera and the DCL or the Disneyland Tower. So I'm hoping
Yeah,
we'll
that's
see.
interesting.
I think that's the big key. Do they go back to the old way? So
And that's going to be getting far too down into the DVC rabbit hole for the rest of us because even I don't understand that. And at some point, we are going to do a DVC deep dive episode for beginners to learn and find out more about DVC because even as deep as I am into Disney stuff, the DVC stuff's still a little crazy to me. So the over at Universal Orlando, teasers have started popping for Halloween Horror Nights. In a couple weeks, we're going to have our friend Holly Carter back on the show, and we're going to deep dive into all of those teasers because I know that she loves to follow it, and I'm sure they're going to have some crazy movie related stuff cooked up. But all that said, we've got some great news. I think everything's moving forward at Disney. A lot of fun stuff. We're going to jump into our first segment of the show. We're going to talk about dining options at Universal, and this is a topic that comes up really frequently. I think on the travel planning side for people that are doing either Universal solo trips, like individually just going to Universal, not going to Disney, but also the people that are doing split stays, especially the ones that are familiar with Walt Disney World because Walt Disney World's known for dining, right? They're known for snacks, different food options, all the great restaurants. And I think Universal, I don't want to say gets a bad rap, but it doesn't have that notoriety for snacks and food, particularly in the parks. You don't see a lot of that stuff on social media, but they do have really, really good dining. So, well, a lot of questions that we get asked are where should I eat when I go over to Universal? It's something that we talked to Matt Richardson about a little bit. He only had one day with a VIP tour to dig into some things. So today we're going to bring in Jocelyn. She's one of the experts in terms of dining at the City Walk, dining at Universal, Islands of Adventure, both parks. She's done it all. I've done a little bit, so I'll chime in a little on my thoughts. But Jocelyn, let's just talk in general. What would you say are the top 3 or 4 dining options, either in park or at City Walk? And let's start with your number one.
My number one, probably if I didn't think too much about it, would be Big Fire. We have never had a bad meal there. They've got just a really diverse menu, nothing too crazy though. Pricing isn't outrageous. They're really consistent. They've got great cocktails, appetizers. All of us in our family, that is definitely like I don't think we've been to Universal and not eaten at Big Fire at least once during a trip think since it opened, probably.
And it's awesome that you say that because that would have been my number one. I got to eat there in November with Steve and Pam Forrester. So Pam is co-owner of the Magic for Less Travel, and we had dinner there, and it was one of the best steaks I've ever had. It was really, really good. It's a solid meal, a great menu, and there's a little bit of everything for everyone. And the vibe in there, I think, was pretty cool. I
Yeah,
think it's
it's pretty
got,
casual. It's got that like
yeah,
rustic a little bit.
little
uh
industrial vibe, right?
yeah, like a
Like,
rustic industrial kind of and
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
and that's
Now,
at City Walk.
what's
Mhm.
that compare to in Disney? Does it compare to anything? Like if you were to say like it's not going to match up exactly, but is there a similar type of price point and feel that you would get from there?
Different vibe, but Ale and Compass is the first thing that came to mind.
Okay. Okay.
Steakhouse 71 was what
Oh,
came to
yeah.
mind too.
Yep.
But it did completely different vibe in terms of restaurant style, but food wise, I felt it was very similar to Steakhouse 71, and I think it was a little cheaper than Steakhouse 71, a little more affordable. But
Yeah.
it's a really, really great option for sure. I
Interesting.
was a little surprised. I'm interested to see the rest of your list because I thought you would have a different number one.
I'm a little biased there. They have a peanut butter and jelly old fashioned that I'm very biased
Ooh.
towards too, so
I
Is that
tried
very
that.
that might be similar to the let's I'm a we watch the YouTube, so Paige and Mr. Morrow, he's got that very the similar drink like that
I'm
too.
glad you just said that. We'll have to have that this weekend, actually. But yeah, they have a good PB&J old fashioned over there.
I did the PB&J drink at Big Fire, and it was good. I'm not an alcohol guy really, but it was good. It definitely tasted like it had hints of peanut butter and jelly for sure.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what would be your number two.
My number 2, probably a toss up, but I'm gonna go resort here. Jake's American Bar at Royal Pacific is our second
Interesting.
go-to, and we eat here almost daily.
And I
They
think
Oh,
I think that's one of like when you talk to Universal team members, that's their watering hole of sorts, right? That's one of their favorite places to
Yeah,
go.
there's never a wait. Sometimes we're like, "How is it still open?" We always get, like, the same table. Like, it doesn't matter what time of day you seem to walk in, there's not a lot of people there, so you never need a reservation. We've been small parties to big parties, and again, it's not a really big menu there, and I will tell you the best thing there, and I'm not someone who ever gets a pretzel or likes soft pretzel, or, like, I'm not they have the best homemade soft pretzels. There's a woman in the back. My father actually wanted to propose marriage to her. He was like, "Bring her." He makes these pretzels by hand in the back, these soft pretzels, and they have these dipping sauces, like a mustard cheese sauce. They're the most fantastic thing. We usually get a few for appetizers, and then we get a few more with the entrees. They're fantastic. But they've got, burgers, a little charcuterie and things like that. Just really basic kind of pubish fare, really good price. But again, we can just go in there, doesn't matter what time of day, and we've never had a bad meal there either.
Interesting. That's
sounds so good.
I'm lost at the rest of your list. All right, so what would be number 3?
So I would say number 3 would probably be Cowfish. Yep,
Okay.
Cowfish at City Walk. We
And
didn't
so
eat
Cowfish
there.
is what kind of food is that?
So they've got the cow the fish thing going, so they've got beef, they've got seafood, but they do a lot of sushi and a lot of burgers and stuff. So they'll do
Okay.
sushi on a burger and things like that. That's where we ate actually at our trip in November, where our group was over at Cowfish, and our table, we I think ranged from, again, sushi to burgers, edamame, things like that, nachos, and they just have a little bit of a twist on everything, but you don't have to be super adventurous to eat there either. I think it's like one of those that it's still kind of catering to the masses, so you can try something maybe a little bit different while still feeling comfortable getting something. And so we like the vibe there. They've got a lot of seating, and we didn't eat there for one reason or another for quite a few years. And then we got back into, like, it started several years ago. It is always on our list now. It's another one that's where we're definitely having a dinner. We
Awesome,
like it.
awesome. So
Yeah.
let's round it out. What would be your last for a top 4? What would be your last spot?
I'm gonna probably go with one of the Harry Potter quick services, just for that whole experience.
I'm
That's
lost here. I'm lost here. Okay.
You're blowing your mind.
Yeah, well, here's why. Like Mythos to me was one of the best restaurants I've ever eaten at.
And to
And
be
it's not even
honest,
in your top 4.
you know why? Because I have not eaten there. And
Oh my
it
gosh. All
is
right, that makes more sense then.
the
Okay.
feedback from every single guest I've ever had dine there and every person I know is that it is hands down fantastic. I don't know why we've not eaten there, but I haven't. So that is probably the only reason it's not on my list.
Fair. That's fair. I Mythos, they advertise it as winning a bunch of awards every year.
Mhm.
One of the best amusement park restaurants and I don't know if they categorize it the world or the country, but it's voted as the best theme park restaurant. And that includes Walt Disney World and Disneyland and all of those things. And it is absolutely fantastic. I
Yeah,
don't know that
some of
I
my
would.
closest friends are Greek, and they go and that's their number 1 too. So they were like, they find it authentic, they find the food delicious.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I honestly think it's the best meal I've ever had inside a theme park for sure. There are
Hmm.
some restaurants at Disney that I might like better, but for one single meal, it was so good. It was so
Wow.
good. So
so I see all the TikTok stuff. Toothsome, or isn't that what it's called? Toothsome. It's not on the list. It wasn't talked about. It maybe it's only a dessert spot. I don't know. It looks
Yes,
good.
I know, I think it's one of those places that it's popular for being popular, like, that's probably, it's overrated, I think. We're not ones to do a milkshake with a piece of cake on top, and we like sweets and stuff, it just
Yeah.
and I have dined there and had the food. I think the price point's a little bit high for mediocre food.
Okay.
and Twosome for anybody that can't picture it in your mind, it's the chocolate emporium at the City Walk that looks like a big factory. So it
Yeah.
looks like a big Charlie and the Chocolate Factory kind of thing. They've got truffle fries. They've got warm chocolate almond bread as appetizers. I mean, they've got a little bit of everything. Nachos. They've got coffee and chocolate chicken wings.
Yeah, the wings are good, but they're like you expect them to be better. That's I feel like underwhelmed when I'm there. I want it to be
Interesting.
better.
That's just my curiosity because everything looks good. Like I'm one of those sweet and salty kind of guys that like and it kind of looks up my alley. So that's why. But I
Yeah.
like all these other ones. Are there any good quick service options around City Walk? Or is there any good ones around in the resorts that you prefer, Jocelyn?
You know where the best places besides, like, the table service at the resorts are the pool bars. They have
Hmm.
fantastic menus, fantastic portion sizes, and really good prices. We'll eat at a pool bar, we just don't end up eating in the parks as much because I think with just the way you tour Universal and getting stuff done with early entry or Express Unlimited and you're doing mornings, we're often back at the pool and we'll eat at the pool bars in the afternoon. And you
Nice.
can get just really good nachos or even fresh salads and stuff. Their food's really good and they're great portions at really good prices. So I just don't end up eating as much quick service there. I think the
Red
places
Oven Pizza, I think, is
yeah,
is
it's got, like
awesome.
I think there's a Panda Express, like, big chains, like, just
Burger King.
yeah, think places I wouldn't
Okay.
normally
Wouldn't
come on
normally,
my
yeah,
radar.
like, on vacation because it's like, and they've got full service chains too. Margaritaville's there, Bubba
Yeah.
Gump Shrimp Company. Yes, stuff like that that you wouldn't necessarily go. The other big one that I think is probably pretty close on most people's list is Vivo Italian Kitchen. It is really, really good, full service restaurant, but definitely don't sleep on Red Oven Pizza. I mean, Red Oven Pizza, I would put, if you're comparing to Disney, it would be like third. So it would be Via Napoli, Primo Piatto, and then Red Oven at Universal would be
Wow.
like that's why I would rank it. Other opinions, may differ or whatever. But let's jump into. I think we've touched a little bit on a lot of the dining options. There's a lot of great options. One of the things we're not going to dive into too deep today is all the resorts. All the resorts at Universal have solid dining. Like whether it's Cabana Bay has a malt shop that is like their shakes are really, really good. And then they've got the normal quick service stuff in the resort. So there's options. The other big benefit that you get in terms of dining at Universal that you don't necessarily see at Disney is instead of Joffrey's, they've got Starbucks at the resorts, which for people that listen to this show, that means a lot to me. All right.
Terrible
So
coffee.
yeah. Meanwhile, Chip's drinking Folgers out of a Keurig. So and Jocelyn's bringing her own French press. So I'm like outmanned on this episode.
No, I get excited at the Starbucks. That makes me happy.
There you go. So let's jump into some listener questions though. The first question that we've got, we're trying to get through the inbox here and clear out a lot of our questions. If someone is considering it, and Jocelyn, I think this is probably the most common scenario we see in terms of trip planning. If someone's considering 2 days at Universal and 5 days at Disney, should they do a split stay or should they stay at Disney and just get transportation for their Universal days? What are your recommendations?
I always recommend doing the split stay. I think the on-site benefits for both destinations are too good to pass up. And while they're not super far, they're not super close. So
Yeah.
time is money when you're on vacation, right? So that time to have a transfer and the cost associated with the transfer to go back and forth adds up really fast. You're not going to have
Probably looking
that
at $30 each way for
at
an Uber.
least if they're not
Yeah.
surging. I have literally gone, there was one trip it cost us $75 to go from Disney to Universal. And we were there for like a night. And then the next day it was like 32 to come back. And we were like, that was awesome. I mean,
Yeah.
you just don't know. And so if you're trying to get there early in the morning, it likely could be surging, or you could schedule a shuttle and stuff. But I think getting there and having the early part admission at Universal as an on-site resort guest is it's really big, even with Express. And you can do it if you're going for like 2 days. I mean, that could be one night. And so sometimes I'm like, when you break down the cost of giving up this resort for one night and putting it over in here, and then because like you said, those costs of the transfers and stuff and just the convenience of it. Yes, you're packing up and moving, but is what I'm gonna say, especially if you do the one night over there for 2 days at Universal, because then you can save, just do the one night at the Premier Resort, get the 2 days there, and then you're paying a lower cost likely over at Disney unless you're staying at a deluxe resort anyway. But I
Well,
definitely recommend doing the split stay.
let me ask this question to both of you, being travel agents, and if I'm going to do a pool day, and let's say I'm using my DVC points, so staying at Saratoga, and I'm staying at a Premier Resort at Universal. Which are you suggesting? Are we for the resort day? I mean, obviously the food sounds phenomenal, but maybe I want
Right.
to go eat at the Universal. But like that's
Jocelyn,
just
I'll be
my
interested to
question.
hear your thoughts on this one.
It's a good question. So I always think the pool vibe at Universal is very universal. I don't know. So I always I love some of the pools at Disney. So even if we're looking at the deluxe villas, I like the quiet pools just as much as the theme pools. So I really do love them. And I like those quiet pools because I can have my bottle of water or something near me and not be getting yelled at, right? Like I always think back when I explain to somebody when I've been sitting on the edge of a pool one time and I mistakenly still had my plastic like Dasani in my hand. So I'm like supervising my kids sitting on the edge of the pool and I'm getting like berated because I had a water and I was technically in the pool. And I'm like, because the worst case is I might spill my water in the water. Where at Universal, you can take your cocktails right in the pool. You can
It's
get a
a it,
bucket of beer and walk out there and it can
Oh,
float and like it's just a different vibe. I'm like, "Oh, like
yeah.
I'm an adult here. I can do this." So, I think there's something to be said about the pools over at Universal. They have like fantastic pools, even at the value resorts, right up to the premier. Sapphire in the middle there, that preferred resort has one of the best pools ever. Their pools, besides the pool bars, they have fire pits that as a
ooh,
guest you can turn on. You don't have to just make sure the wind, is perfect and have a couple cast member come out and turn it on for you. So I think the pools there are a really cool vibe. So
okay.
I think especially if you're going to Disney a lot, check them out over at Universal. I enjoy them.
The the problem that I usually have when I'm helping people plan or even planning my own trips at Universal is that you want to get the premier level resorts so that you get that express pass included. And if I'm usually when I'm talking to people about doing that, that's because they want to maximize their park time. So they want to spend less time at the pools, and the pools aren't as much of a focus. But really, all the pools, top to bottom, even at Cabana Bay, are great pools, like Jocelyn said. But you really have to consider when you're trying to determine what level you're really thinking about the express pass benefit at the premier level more than you're thinking about the pools. And that's I think the difference between Universal and Disney is that the distinction of what you get for the premier level resorts is far different than what you get for the deluxe resorts at Disney. You're
Gotcha.
choosing between the different pools, different vibes, different restaurants when you're talking about Disney restaurant or Disney deluxe resorts. You're talking about a whole different level when you're talking about premier level resorts at Universal. So I think it's almost like a completely different way of thinking. But I do agree, like I would rather do a split stay where you're taking a hotel at Universal. And I recommend that, but I don't usually do that for my family either, which is a weird thing. But I also try and tell people I don't personally do that because I've got little kids. And until they come out with the roller coaster and a lot of that other stuff that's coming here in June, it's still not a great little kids park. So we're spending less time there. My kids are less interested. Another couple things to keep in mind with Universal is the park hours. The park hours are going to be increasing because they've got the new nighttime shows that are starting. But if you do a split stay at Universal and the park closes at 6, you're getting to Disney by, you know, 5, 6, 7 to your resort. And some of those parks are open for another 4 hours. So you've got, plenty of things that you can do over at Disney and continue your day. And I think all that stuff really, really kind of matters, and you have to take that stuff into account. But I tend to say the Universal hotels are great, so you should try and split
Yeah.
stay it if you can, for sure.
On the flip
Awesome.
side, like I'll have a lot of guests who want maybe a shorter, like they want to, they have, just a few nights, but they want a more laid back stay. And so they look at Universal because the parks are closing earlier. And if they're staying at a premier resort with that express pass, they don't have the pressure to be in the parks for 10
Mm,
hours.
yeah.
They can
Oh,
go
okay.
in,
Yeah.
they spend about 4, they can leave and have that pool time each day that they want and have that downtime. And then they go back in the evening for a few evening hours and stuff. And so there's such fun things to do at those resorts. Like, again, I have some who repeat, they stay at Hard Rock because it's not even called renting because you're not paying, you just put a deposit down, but you borrow an electric guitar and do lessons on the TV in your room. And like, they love that. They'll deliver like milk and cookies to your room and stuff. Like, there's just different fun things. And another perk about the pools there, like that can't go unspoken about, is you can pool hop at Universal
Hmm.
from the
Oh,
Prime
cool.
Value, Preferred, and Premier Resort guests. Like, you can stay at Cabana Bay and go over to Hard Rock's pool and stuff. So that's
Ooh,
huge because
that is big.
people ask about that still at Disney all the time. It's a thing of the past. And so we definitely have guests that love checking out the different pools over there. But I think just in general, that 3 or 4 night stay, or they can get more done because of that Express Unlimited when they do that, to then be able to enjoy that time to do other things and just unwind. Where we all know that the Disney guest often feels, they need to get the most out of it. They need to parks up until midnight. We got to be there till midnight and stuff.
Yeah.
So
Huh. So question number 2 is the rider swap at Universal, is it better than Disney or kind of what's the difference with that?
it is better. And it's because, so at Universal, they really want everybody to be enjoying each other, right? So we know that so much of an attraction, the time you spend at it is that time in the queue. And so when you hold people back with rider swap at Disney, they're waiting for people to go through and stuff. And we know the attraction itself is what, usually anywhere from 1 to 4 minutes at most. But at Universal, everybody gets to go in the queue. Doesn't matter if it's grandma who just doesn't want to ride, me who gets motion sick, the toddler who's not tall enough. You all get to go through the queue. So you're still hanging out and doing the things and having your conversation. And you get to experience the queue because they've got some really, really cool queues. And then when you get to the like the loading area, they have, typically it's an air conditioned room with seating, and
Ooh.
you just, whoever's not riding gets to wait in there. And when your party comes off, if you are swapping with anybody, you're just easily swapping, and it's right at the loading and exiting kind of area. So it's just boom boom. It's just a quick switch. It's
And they've
like
got
really
movies playing
casual.
in those rooms too.
Yeah, so the different attractions, like Fast and Furious has, like, little car toy table things and stuff. Transformers, you're seeing clips from the attraction and stuff, so it just varies by what attraction you're at, and so some of them are themed, some of them are just, they're not, but again, you're inside in the air conditioning, so right there alone, you know what I mean? But there's no, like, qualifier. It's not like, at Disney, it's only the attractions where there are height requirements, and it's only the people who are not tall enough that then plays into. This is whoever just doesn't want to ride can step aside. And then if there was somebody like stayed with grandma and the baby, then they can switch easily. So yeah, it's kind of better.
It's a huge benefit, and it's definitely, I think, much better at Universal the way that they do it there. And so kudos to them. They've got some interesting like perks for families. And so I think when the attractions and the characters and the IPs all start to catch up, it's really going to help them get a boost in that front. What are some of your favorite ways to save money on a Disney or Universal vacation? And I feel like we could do an entire episode about this. So, Jocelyn and Chip, you and I can give our thoughts on this too. But Jocelyn, what's one of your favorite ways to save money, either Disney or Universal or both?
Disney would hands down be getting gift cards at a discount wherever you can get them. So I will bounce between getting them at Target at the 5%, or when Costco does like the 10%, or even Target sometimes does a 10, but I watch those and I'll stack those up. Like that's a no-brainer for me to, stockpile. And when you're spending thousands or even hundreds of dollars, whether it's and I think like just letting people know you can pay for your package, your vacation package with these gift cards. So that's an extra 5 to 10% off any other discount you have. If you're adding the dining plan, again, 5 to 10% off that. If you're paying as you go with dining, 5 to 10%. So like we'll go gift cards in hand. We load them up, combine them, and then my husband and I will each have one on us. And even usually like the kids will, if we're separating it all or whatever, we just use those gift cards to have that savings up front. So that is by far my favorite way. And then for both, I'd say just ordering, not even so much groceries for us, case of water or a couple of cases of water.
Yeah.
When I can pay
Mhm.
$6 for 24 bottles and then it's $3.50 a bottle if I don't, like I'll carry a couple. Sometimes I carry 2 thermoses with me and I'll still have water bottles in my backpack. Like I start out with a really heavy bag and my husband, I'm like, "Are you taking your thermos?" He's like, "No, no, no, I'm just gonna, I'll be good." And then when he pays for that bottle of water, like I don't look at prices in Disney or on my vacations generally. When he buys that bottle of water though, and I know I have like another 30 of them sitting in my resort, crazy. So I just think that's something people, and you can get it to both destinations, both resort properties, Garden Grocer, Instacart, Amazon, however you want. It's so easy. And even if you're not doing that, at least then go down to the gift shop in your resort and buy a gallon or like the really big bottles or
Oh
something.
yeah.
So, and of course, Universal, it can't go unsaid without those premier stays. Universal allows us, so just back it up a minute. A premier resort includes unlimited express, or express unlimited is the correct way to say it, for your stay. What we often see, and this is guests, whether they're staying at Universal and maybe their budget is more for a prime value, like they're staying at Cabana Bay, or maybe they are staying at Disney and they're only going over to Universal for a day, but they want that express because they only have one day. We always have to look at the one night stays at the premier resort, even if they're not staying there. And this is, again, something just, it's non-conventional. Universal totally allows us to do it. provide the best value to the guest. So if we can book a one night stay with their ticket so that they have that Express Unlimited, it's often less expensive than buying it as an add on for them. And so, again, you could stay at Cabana Bay for 4 nights, book a one night stay over at Royal Pacific. You don't even have to move. You could if you want to. You could spread out, but you don't even have to go. You just go get your room key, which serves as your express. And now you've paid one night for, let's say you have a family of 5 or even 6 at the price of like that's one room you paid for one night to get Express Unlimited for 2 days for like 5 people. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just it's very rarely not a savings for people to do that.
I've noticed some of the premier level resort prices have gone up a little bit, and I do think that kind of like we know that they're watching those numbers, like the cost of Express Pass and the cost of
Mhm.
the premier resorts. So you want to try and find in I guess the financial markets they would call it arbitrage. You want to find where you're going to get the cheapest deal. So you're just kind of monitoring the room prices. Is it going to make more sense, or is buying Express Pass going to make more sense? And a
Yeah.
lot of times we find that the rooms, tend to win out there. Chip, what are some of your thoughts on saving hacks for Disney and Universal?
So the two biggest things we do, number one, we're points people. So flights, my wife and I both have the Southwest Companion Pass, which for us, I mean, we're a family of 7. We're only using 6 tickets, but I mean, it saves us 2. And then I use Sam's Club more than I use anything else because I like using my credit card points and other that. So Sam's Club's the big one, and right now they have $10 off a $100 gift card. So if you have a Sam's Club membership, don't be afraid to use that. You get 2 of them. And then the other one is we buy a lot of our gifts or like our kids' stuff before they go, especially like the bubble wands and all that stuff that we don't want to spend $30, so we'll buy one for $5. And honestly, Dollar Tree has Mickey glow sticks for a dollar. Well, it used to be a dollar, now $1.25, and we go and buy them out. If
Hmm.
it lasts an hour, we break another one, and we're still saving money. That's our
Right.
big hack.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people doing that, and I think that's a great option. Buying autograph books in advance is another, easy kind of way to save money on a few items here and there. One of the things that I think people, especially the ones that listen to a Disney podcast or are deep into Disney social media, that really should think about it and don't, is an annual pass. At Disney, it's going to break even, I think, around 11 visits. We've got an annual pass calculator on the Adventures of a Disney Dad website that you can use to find out when it would break even for you or when you would start to like really save money and it makes sense. When you talk about like right now, Disney has the 20% off even on Shop Disney, which they do rarely, but 20% off everything in the parks. You could really, really run up a lot of savings on stuff that you normally are buying for Christmas or gifts or whatever and get more value out of that annual pass. So if you're going on 2 vacations a year to Disney, you really probably should have one and you're probably going to save money that way. So I think there's a lot of people that should really consider it. They're on that fringe of like a 7 day trip or an 8 day trip that should really consider it before they go on their next one. But where it really makes sense, or I guess sometimes is Universal Orlando. Their annual pass, their premier level with no blackout dates and express pass after 4 p.m. is only $790. So you buy like 2 different trips worth of tickets and you're right there. It's like arguably you could buy one set of tickets in express pass and you're like $100 away. So you might as well just pull the trigger on the Premier Pass and be done with it at that point. They also have much cheaper, like there's a seasonal pass for $325. There's a power pass for 375. Like they have different levels that have different perks. You can pay for them monthly. So like the Premier Pass at $790 is less than $40 a month or somewhere around there. And they've got some great perks, some great options, valet parking, the express pass after 4 p.m., early admission, discounts on food, discounts on hotels. You get a free Halloween Horror Nights ticket, which is going to have over $100 in value. So that alone can really save you a lot of money on your trip. And one thing that I meant to mention earlier about Universal and Disney, when people are talking about doing the split stays or kind of doing 2 days at Universal and 5 days at Disney. Where things get wonky is Disney or Universal is pretty much always doing a buy two, get two free ticket package, or buy two, get 3 days free, or some sort of promotion like that. And you feel it kind of pulls you into doing Universal for more than 2 days. That's the way I've always felt about it is like, man, I'm going to go down and I only want to go for 2 days, but I'm going to have 4 days of tickets. So you kind of force yourself to find more time to spend at Universal. And I think that's really unique and something that you have to plan around. I was helping somebody this morning that's going down for Disney Marathon weekend, and they only want to go for 2 days to Universal. And I'm like, well, you might as well get the 2 days free. And if you end up using it, great. But if you don't, then that's fine too. It's free. But now they're starting to rethink the entire week, right? Where can I squeeze in an extra day to go over and get more value out of those tickets, save some money on our Disney vacation, and things like that. So you really have to be cognizant of all those things when you're doing your planning.
Can I
The
add something to that, Matt, too, to build on
Absolutely.
what you're saying with the AP? What's really another unique thing is Universal, not everybody on your package has to have the same components. So
Ooh.
Matt can get the annual pass if he knows he's going to be going maybe a couple of times, but maybe his wife and kids aren't. So he has the annual pass, can then apply it to the annual pass savings for the room. And then once he's on site, and his kids and wife can get the tickets they need, and maybe it's the buy two, get two and stuff. So that's a really cool thing about Universal packages. And then with the buy two, get two, or whatever promo they're doing, I think to it often, I was just telling a guest this morning, they were looking at like a 3-night stay. So it's 4 days, but they only wanted the 2-day tickets because Disney people they don't want to waste those travel days, right? Like we have it in our head, we're maximizing. So if you're traveling, there's no way we're spending money on a ticket we're not using. And I'm like, you don't have to use it, but you can go into the park for an hour. You can just walk around and kind of get a lay of the land. So in the morning during early entry, you know exactly where you're walking to Hagrid's or Velocicoaster and stuff. So I always kind of like explain, even if it's a split stay, like you can go in for an hour in the morning, or your kids can if they're teens while you're packing up to move over. So it's a different way of thinking when somebody is so used to a Walt Disney World vacation, what Universal can offer them.
Yeah, and that's huge for the annual pass holders at Disney. You guys know how difficult it is to deal with that issue. Like if I get an annual pass holder room at Disney, I then have to book my kids and my wife's tickets separately, and it can be a whole different thing. So it's wonderful that you can do that at Universal and have different packages with different ticket levels with different people. But the other thing you should keep in mind is like if you go to Universal for one day and you fall in love with it and you're like, I think I should have upgraded to an annual pass, you can do that too on site, which I think is a lot of fun. You can do that at Disney as well. You can apply the cost of your tickets that you're using that day or that week and apply it to an annual pass, and both parks will do that for you. But keep that in mind also. That was something that when we talked with Matt Richardson and he did his VIP tour that he was considering is, do I just go ahead and bump this up to an annual pass for another couple $100? If you're going to use it, you absolutely should. So definitely worth considering. Chip, take us into our final listener question.
All right, so mine's kind of a two-part. So how would you compare the resorts at Universal to Walt Disney World? And then Jocelyn, what's your favorite Universal resort?
Like the favorite kid question, Chip. I think
well,
I will say this,
well,
the
it's
Universal
10:30.
Resort,
You could say your favorite kid. It's all right. I know mine.
the Universal Resort hotels, what's unique about them is that they are owned and operated by the Lowe's Hotel Group. So that's very different from Disney. Universal is like, we're in the entertainment business, we're going to partner with somebody in the hotel business. So we all, again, Disney resorts are like my favorite. That's not their primary business though, right? So I think that the categories, like they've got categories, like at Disney, we have our value, our moderate, our deluxe villa. Universal has a value, a prime value. So I would say that's kind of like the value or like all stars, prime value or like pop and art. Preferred, there's just the solo Sapphire Falls right now. I would say that's our moderate, and the premier and our deluxe are kind of so like category wise are similar. I think again the uniqueness because everything, the footprint there, everything's within walking distance. So it would be like just considering the boardwalk, Swan and Dolphin, right? Like there's
Yeah.
everything you can kind of get to fairly easily, except now with the new ones across the highway and stuff. So there's a lot of convenience there. I think they're very well run. They all have their own unique theming. They're not themed in the way Disney resort hotels are. I think that again, I know you guys were talking about it a couple of weeks ago about will the nostalgia for like your kids be there with Universal IP and all that. I don't think so. And I was listening to Matt's perspective, and I like his is kind of what mine was, is that I think there's so much storytelling woven into the Disney brand that isn't there. Like my kids love Universal. They love the rides. They love these movies they put out. Heck, I'm the biggest Fast and Furious fan ever, right? But
Yes.
it is not
Yeah.
why I go there. It's just there's like not those connection points. And I feel that like I love the theme of the resorts, but it's just like going to a themed resort somewhere else for me as well. It's not what draws me in like staying at the Disney resorts do. So just like I say at Disney, like there's a favorite resort I have for every kind of stay. I would say in the premier category, I don't know, I like them all. The rooms at Portofino are really big, like the square foot and they're not all exactly the same. So the last time we stayed there, our room was so ginormous and they let you put a rollaway in for the fifth, which again, family of 5, like that's amazing. And so
Yeah.
it wasn't like we were having to step over. There was just so much room. So I loved that. But we love the Royal Pacific and the pool there. I actually love Sapphire Falls. It is probably, if I had to say just what's like my favorite resort, it would probably be Sapphire. I love the vibe there. It's like beachy. It's like the beach club. So again, me from New England here, I can't get away from like that specific taste I have. It's just you don't have Express Unlimited. So it's hard when you are going for a attraction focused trip, like a family thing, when we're not all there and it may be just me or if I'm traveling for work, that would be my first for sure. I love it there. I love that pool area. I love the fire pits they have there. And then we really like Aventura as well. I like the amenities and like the dining and pool at Cabana Bay. Aventura, as sleek and modern as it is, has a kids suite that we've stayed in quite a few times now. And it's a fantastic setup for 5 of us. Again, we do it usually with a 2 queen connecting when we're with our friends, but we come in, it's a really big split bathroom. You've got a kind of a seating area, a king bed, and the way the resort is kind of curvy, we kind of curve, but it's floor to ceiling windows, gorgeous views of the parks. So again, 5 of us lay out very nicely in that space. So we really do, and the price point there is fantastic. So if we're going for a trip where we don't need Express Unlimited, or maybe we're doing a split stay, that's like our go-to is that kids suite.
And the one thing I'll say about comparing the two is I think Universal's got a big leg up in terms of the value resorts. I think their
Yeah.
value resorts are, I would say, significantly better than the All Stars. It's just my own personal opinion because I think the All Stars need a little bit of a, as Pam Forrester would say, a zhuzh. They need a little bit of love. And movies, I think the theming still gets you, but some of the theming still needs some love. And even if the theming isn't, great for kids necessarily at the values, you still get a resort with Starbucks. You get, I feel like they're just a little bit more modern
Correct.
and
I
updated.
agree.
That's
Watch them on YouTube. That's the biggest thing is I love watching. Now I'm gonna say I've never walked into it, but Portofino by far on YouTube is the best looking resort, maybe next to Riviera. Like it is. Like I'm watching it and I'm like, I feel like I'm in Italy. Like walking through here.
I
It
feel like I'm
looks
one of the
beautiful.
only people that doesn't like Portofino. And it's only because it gives me like fake movie set vibes when you're there
Okay,
because
I
I
that's
see
what
can
that.
it
see
is.
that.
I
And
see
it's
I
that.
thought
like,
I'd like it better the first time I
yeah,
went.
like I think it's very photogenic because in photos you don't see that it's all fake. So it like when you're
Gotcha.
there, it's got more of that, this is all just a fake facade kind of thing. But it's still, I mean, it's still a really nice resort.
Yeah.
And that's in part, Holly confirmed that I was right, that Steven Spielberg was involved in some of the designing and things like that. So that all makes a little bit more sense. But they're all still great resorts. There's a lot of great options. And we're looking forward to the new ones too, because even the new value resorts that are opening, some of them, what is it, Terra Luna and Stella Nova are value resorts
Yep.
opening in January 2025. So they're going to open before Epic Universe, and the pricing is pretty low. you're going to be doing buses back and forth to the theme parks, but they look gorgeous in photos. But
they've got the buses down pat. You don't wait for
Mhm.
buses there. There's just
Right.
always a bus, which is
That-
really
that-
another.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's always
they do a very good job with the busing there. There's no doubt about it. And that episode went by fast, but that's going to wrap it up for our episode this week. Really appreciate you listening and always appreciate the support. If you have a moment and you could like, rate, and review the podcast on whatever platform you prefer, we would greatly appreciate it. You can reach out to us on social media and Instagram. I am at Adventures of a Disney Dad with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Jocelyn, we will include all your social media in the show notes, but please let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah, I'm most active on Instagram at back to WDW.
And that's TO, not the number 2.
Yes, EAC.
And like I said, the links will be in the show notes. Chip, where can people find you?
Robinson Dad Life on Instagram.
And as always, if you're interested in having me or Jocelyn assist you in planning your next Universal or Disney vacation, we are happy to assist you. All the links to get a free quote are in the show notes. Our services at the Magic for Less are completely free to you, and we would love to help you plan your next dream Walt Disney World or Universal Orlando vacation. And with that, Jocelyn, thank you for joining us, and we will see you in the
Having me,
parks.
guys.
We'll see you when we see you.